Hi guys, my name is Nana and welcome to the On The Table podcast. This is where we bring different Christians together each week to discuss matters that we're putting on the table. Our aim today is not only to think Christian things, but also how we'll actually act them out as well. So today on the table is...
Mike, or MT. I'm a entrepreneur.
Nice. And
I'm Tamara. I'm a recent graduate.
Great. So today, what is on the table? Today we'll be talking about the Christian perspective on soft life. Tamara, thoughts?
I actually looked up the definition because I wasn't too sure exactly
Where
what
did
it
you get
meant.
this definition? Urban Dictionary?
Free dictionary.
Okay.
Interesting.
It says a life that is typified by or filled with ease and comfort without requiring any hard work, sacrifice or unpleasantness.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think I used to think that it was just about like materialism and just, having the nicest things so that you can put out a good image. But it actually includes like comfort. Like that is one of the main and core things to do with soft life.
Are you a advocate for soft life?
No, I am against soft
So
life.
you want a hard one?
No. Okay. My stance is that it doesn't represent the life that we should be living as Christians, in a sense that we're supposed to, like, we're going to encounter trials and tribulations, right? And I think it's in James where James speaks about how trials, they help our faith, they help our endurance so that, we can look more like Christ. And I think that the soft life, this definition I read anyway, kind of goes against that, because they're trying to remove anything difficult from your life for the sake of comfort and ease.
Yeah, I hear it. Mike,
Tamara's so correct, isn't she?
Maybe. Mike, what's wrong with living a soft life that I don't get?
Well, the only soft life you're gonna get is in heaven. Okay, so why don't we start there? The Bible says there is danger in this world. It says in this world there's going to be pain. Jesus himself verbatim says that in this life there will be trouble, but he says, take heart, I have overcome the world. When we are glorified, that's when we'll have the ultimate soft life. It will be soft, triple velvet, soft, right? Yeah. But on this side of eternity, you just can't avoid it, because even if you build up 6-foot walls with all the money in the world, cancer can get in. And if you have the best doctors in the world, your own self-destructive tendencies can kill you. So there is no soft life, really. It's just a chimera, something that people want, but they won't get.
But what if, so I know I'm going to struggle in this life. You get, when you become a Christian, you almost sign up to suffering. But I'd rather suffer crying in a Ferrari than on a bus. Do you get what I mean? So is it wrong?
Could you explain a bit? Could you explain a bit more why the Ferrari would make your suffering feel less?
Do you know what? I think there's a comfortability in the definition. There's a comfortability that comes with it. Do you get what I mean? So it's like when I'm crying, I'm using like scented tissues. Do you get what I mean? Like it smells nice, and I'm wiping my face. Like imagine just using my shirt. Now my shirt's dirty, and now it's scratching my face. Do you get like? So we're gonna struggle. We're gonna struggle. But it's like for a lot of people who almost glorify this, like life's going to be hard. I understand that. I agree. But then it's like sometimes they're like making it hard for themselves. So it's like, I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to try go for that promotion because I just don't need it. I just don't want any more money. And that's a separate conversation about money. But it's like Proverbs, we see that a wise man leaves an inheritance for his children. It's like sometimes you need to get more money to be able to provide the resource that you want to give to people. So if tomorrow you have an idea and let's say you want to launch a business, you're looking for people to invest. And imagine I've been doing this hard life so much that I don't want any money in this one. I don't need any money in this one. How am I supposed to help you? I can pray for you, but then James speaks about it clearly. Like, what's the worth of just sending a prayer? Prayers are good, but it's like if you have the means to help someone, why not?
That's really good.
Yeah.
So where do you...
I don't think that there's anything wrong with wanting to with wanting to get more money for the sake of, I don't know, doing kingdom work or helping your family. Like there's nothing wrong with that. I think when it's an issue when it becomes an idol and you're chasing money to fill a void that money just cannot fill, and comfort and ease cannot fill. Okay. Do you know what I mean?
But then, so when let's say you were to look at someone, they propose to be a Christian, and then they're living a very luxurious, comfortable life. would
Yeah.
that make you, you're not supposed to judge them or anything, but would that make you look at them differently because they're not ostensibly going through hardship?
Is that to me? Or?
anyone. But then I don't know. I just find it very difficult to process the idea that like just because I'm not in chains, I'm not in tattered clothes like John, I'm not eating locusts and honey, that like maybe I'm not doing this Christian thing properly.
I think I take your point, Nana, and I think you're right. I think the way I think about it is, I think we have to differentiate two things. I think what the world, when I say the world, I mean people on Twitter, social media, all the stuff that we kind of hear popularly said in popular culture. I think when they say soft life, I may be wrong because I don't know the term that well, but when they say soft life, it seems as though they are looking for, peace and joy, and it seems as though they think the way you get peace and joy is through holidays, nice clothes, and essentially no struggle. But of course, that's a biblical word, joy, but they're using it without the biblical context, because in the Bible, joy does not come from external circumstances. The peace that Jesus offers isn't the cheap one that can be stolen from you because someone's robbed your watch. Jesus promises a peace that surpasses all understanding, and then, to my knowledge, that kind of peace, irrespective of hardship, it's deep, it's abiding, it's weighty, it's the quality of it is it's just more robust, and so there's nothing wrong with Christians desiring that peace and that joy. If that's the soft life people are talking about, I mean, we have a concept for it, a conception for it, but it's a different type of thing. It's not about externals, it's about internals. And I think that's probably, I may be wrong, but that's how I would think about the terms, the way the world uses it and the way we use it.
Interesting. So let's say, this isn't my pastor, but my pastor's said this year's your year of financial breakthrough. And this is your year of prosperity and peace and no suffering. And maybe I'm walking in that. Maybe I'm actually walking in that, it's been an easy year. Like, that's what my pastor said. So, like, is my pastor wrong? Did I interpret it wrong? Like, our Christians, if God's a good father and he desires good things for his kids, and Jesus Christ speaks about, look at the lilies, how they're catered for. He waters for the birds in the air. They have food. Like, why not me? Why not me?
So it looks like you need to have a chat with your pastor.
It's not my pastor.
Seems like this coming from this is coming from a deep place.
It's been a hard year.
No, do you know the way I see it, right? And tomorrow, like, feel free to correct me to weigh in. In my head, I'm just like, with all due respect to your fictional pastor, he doesn't have jurisdiction over your year. So for him to say this is your year of prosperity, that's very wishful thinking on his part. He doesn't get to declare what the year is, right? God does that. None of us can do that. He can say what he thinks might be in your year. He can strongly advise you. He can even prophesy. But even that he does in part. So the notion that he could say this is your year is just, it's wishful thinking. The way you help people grow, as you know, if you have a younger cousin or younger sister, and you guys have younger siblings.
There are three of them.
Now I got a niece and a nephew, and I know for a fact that if it was up to them, they probably would do no chores ever, because it just brings them too much stress and too much. I don't do this. I'd rather watch some new Disney nonsense, right? It's just propaganda, but that's another conversation. But if their mum puts me in charge over them and they're meant to be doing their chores, and I'm like, I love them so much. All right, guys, no chores. Am I doing them a favor or a disservice in that moment? Clearly, I'm doing them a disservice. They don't learn the crucial skills. They don't know how to be patient. They don't know how to work hard. And later on in life, that will materialize in their life as them being lazy and ambitious, maybe like even proud because they just never had to do kind of humble work. So like God uses challenges in our lives. A life that's challenge free is a life where you don't grow, where you don't mature, where you don't build on the crucial stock that God first gives you. So I think I get people's desire for ease, but they have to realize that through the hardest, darkest, difficult times, that's typically where God builds, us in ways that we just can't really imagine. We grow through those dark times. So I just feel like your pastor, if he really loves you, would be encouraging you to suffer well, to enjoy the things that God has made, to have a great time, to never let success get to your head, but failure get to your heart, right? To really help you sit in the middle of those tensions. That's a Christian life, not a life where you just screen out all the things you don't like.
Yeah, I agree.
And
Sorry.
that was a lot.
Yeah.
That was a lot. But I think this goes into another topic of like the prosperity gospel. And I think it's done
As a Christian,
it's done a lot more harm than good. I think there's probably no good that is done for people. I think people come into faith with an expectation of God if they've been presented with a prosperity gospel, and when that just doesn't happen for them, is they start questioning God, and then their whole fundamentals, because of a faulty foundation, everything's just gone. But then, have you guys ever had an experience of like you believing something to be true when it comes to like, I'll have all of the big things and them not coming through, and like, how did you go around that? So like, did you ever desire to like be driving a Range at like 23, and maybe you didn't have a Range at 23, and then like, does that mean does that mean like what you are hearing about God, that he's going to provide your every need if you pray and ask for things in his name, he will answer? Like,
the Range at 23 was a very specific example. Nana, do you want to say where it comes from?
Sounds
like a.
Do you know what it is?
Sounds like a personal thing.
Do you know? I want a big boy car. I wanted a big boy car at least.
Not a big girl car, just.
No, this is gender neutral. I'm joking. I'm joking. The car, anyone can drive. Anyone can drive the car. Anyone can drive the car. Before they come for me, anyone can drive the car. But no, I honestly, there was a point I wanted the Range. Do you get what I mean? Like, cry in the Range. Why would I cry on the TFL? I'll cry in the Range. Do you get what I mean?
Elizabeth line is quite nice.
Yeah, it is actually.
It is, but my service doesn't work from like Canary Wharf to. Yeah, so it just doesn't work. In my car, I can even play music out loud. It's great. It's panoramic sunroof. Oh, what a time to be alive. But it's like, there were many things that I wanted. For example, like even in my journey to go into university, I was from year 12 and year 13, I always wanted to go to Oxbridge. In year 13, I got rejected from Oxford and LSE and Warwick, and like, yeah.
Wow, I'm so sorry, man.
It's fine. It's fine. But then the next year I tried again. I got an interview for Cambridge and it didn't go. So it was like all these things where I believe like, God, you won't fail me here, man. Or God, like, I know you'll do this for me. I'm your son, so you'll definitely do this for me. And like, we thank God because for me, like where I am now at the University of Warwick is probably the best place I could have ever been for the things that God is using me for. But then it's like, with a different understanding of who God is, you could really put God's nature into question, because it's like all the things that you believed for and you prayed for and you maybe prayed for and you desired, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
You know, when you get older, and this is one of the things I've learned and I'm learning, one of the most mature prayers you can pray, and one of the greatest ways you can give God thanks, is to thank him for the prayers that you prayed that he didn't answer, and the doors that you asked to be opened that he didn't open.
Right.
And you just start to thank him for shut doors and for open doors, because you realize that, and this is why providence for me is such a key kind of part of God's work on the earth, is to know that, like, one of my friends was launching his album not too long ago, and we were just sat here and a lot of people in the room just like enjoying it. And before that, you know, we was kind of, before everyone arrived, we were just together. And I was just telling him that what's so crazy about this moment is it's the biggest moment of his life, kind of, you know, the fact that it's the first ever event, just like, you know, all the stuff you'd feel before a big event. Yeah. And I just shared with him, I was like, you know, what's crazy is before you were born, or even when you were like, people were your naming ceremony, right? And you're like, you're a baby, you're just there crying, helpless. God already had this moment in his mind, and he's already like framed it. And so your life is just him just walking you through all the 27 years, 26 years, just walking you to this moment, which you now get to enjoy. So I was like, my guy, relax and just bask in it, because God has led you to this moment. Yeah. When you think about things that way, you realize that God is really in charge of every single part of my life, every single day. There's no days off, right? And so good days and bad days, the Bible says, all those days, all things work together for good for those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. It's why the prosperity gospel is such an affront to God, because it's an attempt to play God, to get rid of all the stuff that we think from our limited perspective doesn't fit into the life that we're building, looking forward, even though we don't even know what's in the future. So it's just a foolish thing to do, to believe that we can micromanage and play little gods, when really we ought to rest in God's sovereignty and providence that will grow us, bless us in the process, and typically bless people around us. It's just a better way to go, I think.
And I think for me, one of the things that I've learned through hardship and suffering and just unanswered prayers and God saying no to certain things is learning to believe that God is good regardless of whether or not he gives me what I ask for. Like, he remains good. And I think that's a lesson that I've been learning a lot lately. And I think that's one of the great things that hardship can teach us. So to try and remove that from your life is almost doing a disservice to the level of faith that you could have in him, because it's like your faith just becomes so much more well-rounded and just it becomes so much fuller through hardship and suffering.
It even reminds me of, like, I spoke about my experience with going to university and stuff, and like I never wanted to take a gap year. But then, like, in all my limited understanding of what God could do with me and where I wanted God to take me out of my own desires, like what he did on my gap year was just amazing. Do you get what I mean? Like, there were things I'd never thought about were even possible. I just ended up doing in my gap year, because it's like, what God sees and what we see is completely different.
100%.
It's completely different. But
And I met you during your gap year.
you did.
Oh,
You did.
One of the best things that happened to me that year.
That's so cute.
But
Okay, he's like,
no, but
can we take 5? I need to get a drink.
but back to soft life. I think, where do you find, as a Christian, where do you find the balance of, like, enjoying the fruit of your labor, like you working hard?
good.
You, Mike, I know you take periodic breaks, and you've been to a few nice places in this life. So
A few.
So, like, as a Christian, you know, like, how much enjoyment can I really have? Am I made to suffer?
Oh. Well, okay, I'll jump in. So I think it sounds like we all say we've had a pretty hard life. However, we wouldn't trade anything, because it's led to us being here today. I do think, on a very large level, we do need a better doxology of enjoying. David, enjoyed God, but he also enjoyed the things God made.
Yeah.
And I think we're quite good at the first part. There's a lot on Christian hedonism, this idea of, seeking the highest pleasure in God. There's tons of Christian literature around that, so that's good. This idea of how do I enjoy the things that God's made, nature, or common grace, whatever. We're not very good at that. And I think Christians tend to run away from that. So, like, even money, there is a definite poverty theology, glorified theology. So I don't know, man. I think I'm still getting kind of used to that. Like, how do I do that? Knowing that my heart is very, it's a new heart, glory to God, Ezekiel 23, but it's still like, it can be tempted. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you give me too much money, I think I will change. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't, people are like, oh, I will never change. I'm like,
I might.
You give me 10 million? Maybe my WhatsApps won't be so, I won't reply so quickly anymore, Anyway, so that's something else I'm working on. So I just think we do need to work on that more. We need more writing about that, more thinking about that. How do we enjoy the things that God has made? How do we enjoy, like, the resources and not just him?
The topic of enjoyment is hard, because it's like, the world will present you with a type of enjoyment, and then you almost feel intrinsically that everything in the world is wrong and shouldn't indulge in any of it, and overindulgence. But even like coming into contact with any of it might be wrong and you might consider sinful. But then I do believe that there are probably certain things that God does want us to enjoy, like, for example, seeing the world. Like, we see that, like, for me, like, the apostles, as much as they went out into the world and evangelized, like, what I consider a blessing is that they got to see the world. Like, I went on a mission trip and I actually saw like, looking at the mountains in Tenerife and everything. It was really nice. Do you get what I mean? And it's not necessarily that I went for the mountains, I went for something else, but it's like, it's a blessing that I got to
see all the stuff that God has made. Not just where are you from again?
I'm from
Not
Hackney.
Hackney. I think you should leave Hackney for stop. But that's enough.
Hackney's great.
confidence.
We're one of the 4 Olympic host boroughs.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what's the legacy looking like? After
Oh,
the
amazing.
Olympics? Really?
Yeah.
That was a news article the other day about the fact that the legacy failed. But sorry, that's sorry.
That's unnecessary.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah. But it is a bit difficult though. Like, what does enjoyment look like for a Christian, especially when you're thinking about like soft life and I don't know. I'm very conflicted because it's like certain things I want to do, but then it seems quite, and then some things I'm not too sure about. But yeah.
What do you think tomorrow?
Yeah, I think kind of like what you said, Mike. I'm trying to figure out this whole like rest enjoyment thing because I don't know. Growing up, I just thought like, no, it's not good to enjoy because it's sinful. But it's actually like, no. God wants us to be able to relax. He wants us to have. He wants us to laugh. He wants us to have good times. You know what I mean? But I guess it depends on the motive, right? It depends on what your heart is. Is it like, oh, I want to go out and enjoy so that I can post on social media and people can see that, yeah, someone's having a good time and she has such a great life. Like, because that's just empty. That's empty, right?
Yeah.
You're not actually enjoying that moment. I don't really know where I'm going with this thought, but yeah, passing on to you, Mike.
No, I'm in the same place as you. I think that's a great thought. We don't know, but I think what I will say is definitely good. I think you kind of mentioned it, Nana, throughout this whole podcast, is that inadvertently, like, enjoying, relaxing, resting, it glorifies God, man.
Yeah.
Because it means you just kind of, it's a way of you saying, like, God, you're in control, like, you're in charge, and I trust you to kind of, I remember once I used to struggle with sleep. This might seem a bit random, but it's connected. And I just didn't sleep because I'd be like, I'm going to miss out on something or something might happen. And someone told me, they're like, sleep is worship. And I was like, how? And they were like, well, you're saying to God, I trust you to be okay without me. Like, I trust you to keep the world spinning. I trust you to just carry on. Like, I can just bake off.
What does that mean?
Oh my God.
And like, God will kind of carry on. And ever since I heard that, it did change my approach to sleeping. I sleep like a baby now. But also, I'm just like, I don't have to be on all the time in order for God to advance his kingdom. I can take a break. I can pause. I can rejuvenate. I can recuperate. Whatever the word is, I can do it. So, to tie it all back, soft life definitely is used differently in the kingdom versus the world. And the kind of soft life God thankfully promises us is one that's so much better than one where we're just like, peace isn't just the absence of problems. It's an actual pursuit in and of itself. So what God offers us is not like, oh look, there's no madness happening. No, that's not it. It's there's a deep joy that you have that nothing can take away from you.
Thank you for that thought.
Thank you, Nana.
I think this was a great conversation, and hopefully next week we see you again on the Table Podcast. Thank you.